Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on the Trailblazer program consultation. My name is Sian Keys, and I will be your host at MC this morning. Could we have it move to the next slide, please? I would like to begin today with an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I would also like to extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So today we are here for a webinar, an information session on the consultation for the Trailblazer program within the Moon to Mars initiative. These are the people who you will see today within our information session. You'll see Enrico Palermo, who is the head of the Australian Space Agency, Campbell Pegg, who is the program manager for the Trailblazer program, myself, Sian Keys, I am your MC today, and then we will have some of our subject matter experts for questions, Catherine Bonnell, Arvind Ramana, Gordon Cable, and Kate Sweetman. The format for today's session is that we will have some opening remarks by Enrico Palermo. Then we will have Campbell give us an overview of the Trailblazer program. We will then have a question and answer session via Slido. I would like to remind you all that today's session is limited to the Trailblazer program. And questions should be limited to the consultation regarding that program. Thank you. To be able to join the conversation in the Q&A session, please go to slido.com and enter the event code Trailblazer. This slide will be shown again when we get to the Q&A portion of the webinar. I would now like to introduce Enrico Palermo, who is the head of the Australian Space Agency, for some opening remarks. Over to you, Enrico.
Thanks a lot, Sian. Well, welcome to the webinar, everyone. It's terrific to be here with you virtually today. Your feedback is so important, and that is why the agency today is holding the public consultation on the Trailblazer program, which is the third element of our Moon to Mars initiative. We are going to the moon, and I love saying that, and we are, and want to bring the Australian public, industry and research sector along for the journey. The Trailblazer program is the agency's major inspirational project supporting NASA's Moon to Mars ambitions. And the program is part of the agency's cornerstone initiative we call the Moon to Mars initiative, which is a $150 million investment in the Australian space industry to accelerate the growth of Australian businesses and researchers and support Australia's ambitions to join NASA's Moon to Mars endeavours. This investment will accelerate the agency's mission to triple the size of the Australian civil space sector to $12 billion by 2030 and add an additional 20,000 jobs to the sector. This initiative, importantly, aligns with many programs and activities that are occurring already across the Australian civil space sector, and I'd like to mention a few of those. We have the Supply Chain Grant Release Program, which is still accepting applications, I'd note, until May 2023. We've had a successful intake for the Demonstrator Program Feasibility Grants. The government's $1.3 billion Modern Manufacturing Initiative and Space Manufacturing Roadmap, as space was identified as one of the 6 priority areas for developing advanced manufacturing capabilities here in Australia. Our signing and participation in the Artemis Accords, signing of the UK Space Bridge Framework Arrangement Agreement recently, and opening of the ASDC here in Adelaide. The space industry is playing an important role in Australia's economic recovery and help us emerge from the COVID-19 crisis stronger than ever. The Moon to Mars initiative will be a signature part of this recovery for the space sector and has relevance to life here on Earth. In fact, the awards under the supply chain recently have very important applications and derivatives for us on Earth. As a nation and a sector, we must aspire to do big, audacious things things that inspire the nation and develop national capability. And that is something, as relative to my recent appointment to head, that I'm fully behind. And Moon to Mars is a key part of that. I've been very fortunate to work in the international space sector and have seen that when you bring together the right conditions of talent, funding, technology, and regulation, you can do amazing things. I personally cannot wait until we have Australian hardware and technology on the surface of the moon or in orbit around this moon. And just this week's activities on Mars, just fascinating. They show you the potential, whether it was the first flight of Ingenuity or just in the last 24 hours, the announcement that oxygen has been extracted for the first time on the surface of Mars. So science fiction is certainly becoming a reality, more so every day. So please come on this journey with us. I'd like to give us quick recognition to the team that has prepared diligently for this webinar today. And I know they're excited to go through the materials. So we look forward to hearing your feedback and hope you enjoy the session. Thanks a lot, Sian.
Thank you very much, Enrico. I would like to just quickly mention that this this information session is being recorded and will go up on YouTube afterwards. So all of the slides will be available then. I would now like to hand over to Campbell Pegg, who is the Program Manager for the Trailblazer program. Thank you very much, Campbell.
Thank you, Sian. Thank you, Enrico. Yes, my name is Campbell Pegg. I'm the Program Manager of the Trailblazer program, and I'm a part of the Engagement Industry Growth team here at the agency. Now, before we get started, I wanted to show you this image. This is an image of the Proton rocket in 2016 that had a very special payload, and the payload was ExoMars 2016. It was a project that I worked on when I was actually very early in my career. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this is because at this stage of any mission development, this focuses the whole program down to one single part. And this is, at this stage of the program, the program stopped being a program that is of everyone, of our desires of this. It started becoming our program. It really started solidifying everyone's belief that they can do this and actually get it to the place it needs to be. It was an amazing experience being able to see different launches throughout the time, but putting something that you've developed or you've been a part of and putting it up into space is an absolutely exhilarating experience. And we really want to be able to give everyone the chance to be able to have this. The reason why this is so important, that in about 4 to 5 years, we are going to be in the exact same position. We are going to have a rocket that's going to look something similar to this. It's going to be on the launch pad. It's going to have something that is Australian payload on there, and it's going to be going to or around the moon. And I promise you, before then, there's going to be a whole bunch of trials and tribulations, but at this point, it's going to be our program. It's going to be everyone from Australia's program. And I promise you, even though only a certain number of people are going to be able to build it, everyone from Australia is going to be behind you on it. So I just really want people to remember this. If there's always things that pop up, remember this point. Remember that this is going to really make a bit of a difference in the world. So the question is, when we move from there, is why are we here today? Now, we had a presentation previously, a consultation previously on the Moon to Mars initiative, and we had this about a year ago, and we heard a range of feedback from the industry. Some of that feedback included they wanted us to set visions, they wanted us to connect the broader community, and they also want to leverage Australian capability. So we went back, we did a lot of work between now and then, and this is the work we've done and implementing that sort of feedback into the Trailblazer program. We've now come back with a whole bunch of work. We wanted to collect more feedback from you, from all the work that we've done. And this is including on the program's objectives. It's including the visions that we've been setting for exploration for Australia, and also some example missions that we have. And then on top, we're going to show you the broad brush aspect of the implementation methodology for the Trailblazer program. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, let's go over the Moon to Mars initiative first, and then we'll get to the Trailblazer program. So Moon to Mars initiative, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before, but I'll go through it very quickly. There's 3 programs as part of the Moon to Mars initiative. The supply chain program, which is about getting Australian products and services into the domestic and international supply chains. This has 2 components. The grants component, which is open today. You can apply. A round is going to be closing on the 4th of May, but it is open to 2023, so you can apply at any time. I would encourage all of you to start applying to this grant program. There is money there available. Then there's also the facilitation funding program that you'll be hearing more information later this year. There's the demonstrator program. This is about getting Australian products and services into space and getting that space heritage. This is in 2 rounds, the feasibility grants, which have closed and are under assessment, and you should hear more information on this quite soon. Not in this presentation, but obviously soon this year. But don't worry, if you've missed out on this, there is the mission grants that are going to be released late this year or early next year that you have the chance to apply for as well. So there's many opportunities out there. Now that's all I'll talk about those 2 programs. Today, the main focus is the Trailblazer program. And this is the major Australian project supporting NASA's Moon and Mars endeavours. And we are here to really demonstrate what Australia can do to the world and also inspire our nation. So just to run over the key objectives of the Moon to Mars initiative, we're here to support Australians' ambitions to join NASA's endeavour to go on to Moon and on to Mars. We want to accelerate the growth of the Australia's economic and employment targets, build Australian capability and capacity, lift Australian involvement in national and international supply chains, demonstrate Australian capabilities to the world, and inspire the nation. So let's get straight on to the demonstrator program now. Now, this program, as I said, is a mission that is going to go to the moon. And the key objectives of what this program is to contribute a flagship Australian space and cross-sector capabilities within international and space exploration programs. So basically a flagship mission, develop a global competitive advantage for the Australian space sector, building capability and creating jobs, demonstrate Australian capabilities to the world, and inspire the Australian public. Now, taking these objectives, we then looked at the mission and said, look, what do we really want this mission to actually do? And we came down with 7 attributes that were really quite critical for us, that we need to form a balance to be able to have a successful mission. First one is build relationships. So we're building relationships with NASA around this program. There's also, we should be feasible, meaning it's in line with cost and quality and time frame. We want it to grow the industry. We want it to be Australian made. We want to demonstrate Australian capability. We want to also inspire the nation. And as well, we want to be in line with the strategy of the Australian Space Agency as well. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit through about the feedback that came back from the previous consultation about setting visions. And then what we've done to get to these, to actually set some visions for you today. They're outlined in the consultation paper. So what we've done is we've looked at the actual the strategy of that's going on behind the scenes here at the agency, and we've put an exploration focus on it. And the key aspect around the strategy is that we're trying to leverage Australian capabilities, so strengths that we have today, to find a gap in the international exploration market. So leverage key strengths, but we want to apply it in a gap, so we don't want to play where everyone else is playing. And there were 3 key critical capabilities that started popping out quite quickly. There are many more, and we did obviously go through a range of these as well, but there were 3 I wanted to identify here today. The remote operations and autonomous systems capabilities. So the mining sector is really developing a significant level of autonomy and remote operations for their assets in the middle of Australia. And this is really world-class. We are way ahead of the rest of the world. And a great example of that is we have something like 80% of the world's autonomous trucks are actually located in Australia. So this is a capability that was undeniably there. We also have remote medicine. So the Antarctic Division has shown us that there is significant capability in Australia for dealing with health in remote areas. Plus, as well, we have a lot of remote communities in Australia as well. So there's a lot of nice linkages here. And advanced communications was the last one. Now, you might have seen the communications roadmap that has been released and has identified areas that we have quite a lot of strength. Of course, on the international in the international exploration market. Communication is common. We're not the only ones playing in this market, but we do see there are certain niche areas that we can actually strive to be a major player. So these are the three that we've been looking at quite heavily. Of course, we've been looking at many more, but these are the three that sort of stood out. And we've taken this to international space agencies to see which have been getting traction, and these generally have been, so which is a big win for us. So I want to bring us to the next slide, and this is sort of the vision that we've been trying to set. And I'm trying to push ourselves to think, what would we look like in the next 30 years? What would the moon look like? What would we see on the moon? And what part of this does Australia actually want to play in? So imagine 30 years from now, let's say there is around about this much infrastructure on the moon. Probably it's a little bit too much, but you know, it's nice to see what we can possibly be doing. And what part does Australia want to play on doing this? We can't do everything. This is trillions of dollars of investment to make something like this occur. But what part does Australia really want to play? And this comes down to, the first one is communications. We want to be a key player in the communication backbone to exploration, and at least be a major part of this. So obviously we need to be having partners on the international level, but to be a major part of this, it is important, and we see we can actually add some value here. There's also the health system, so the majority of these explorations will require astronauts to go, and we see that the health systems around the astronauts and keeping the astronauts not just alive, but also to perform and to maintain their well-being while out there. It is an important aspect, and we have a significant level of capability from our Antarctic divisions that can sort of be leveraged for here. And then the last one is foundation services. So this is a new word that we're coining, and I wanted to give you the definition that we've written in the consultation. So foundation services are the operational services that support exploration missions to build towards and maintain a sustained off-Earth presence. So what does this mean? It means you can see all the assets that are out there. Now, solar arrays, you see communication systems, you see a whole range of things that are going on. But a lot of the international market are not thinking about how are they going to be connected, how are they going to work together, how is it going to be operated and maintained. Most of these sites, even when they do get set up, won't have humans on them a lot. They'll need to be autonomously operated, and this is where Australia can actually make a huge impact immediately. So we see that we can operate and maintain and be a major part of these operations and maintenance and the foundation services for exploration missions. So this is the vision that we're setting, and we have articulated this in the consultation paper here as well. So to give people an idea about how these visions have been set, but at the same time, what missions would we see that would come under here? So we're trying to obviously keep the visions constant over a long period of time, but of course when it comes to missions, we can have a whole array of missions, and these are just our first look of some missions that are available, but we are wanting to hear from the feedback, what missions do you think we can do? What missions do fulfill these visions? But some of them, just to give a good example, is from Foundation Services, a Foundation Services rover. So it's quite clear from the beginning, even though we have a significant operational capability out there today, most people don't like you operating their stuff unless you're providing something else. So we've got to build something as well, and we see a rover as a great way to get into that area. And we can see a rover that could do multiple things: remote inspection, remote maintenance, movement of regolith around, regolith characterization, sensor deployment, deployment and construction of certain devices as well. So we could see rovers in those areas would actually produce this vision that we were looking for. But please tell us if you see other things. We really want to hear it. Exploration communication. So there are two areas that we really see that we can make an impact today. One is in the data relay between, let's say, the Moon and Earth. We do have significant capability to be able to provide some of this and actually to help provide the data relay between here. And we would see something like 1 or 2 satellites being put as a data relay satellites. For the lunar IoT networks, so for here we can see, for example, a small constellation of small satellites that could be sent to the Moon and setting up this sort of low data rate system around the moon and helping people getting access to communication on the moon. So in exploration communication, this is sort of some of the areas that we see, but please tell us if you see other ones. And exploration health services. So there was two sort of example missions that we could, example devices and capability we could generate here. An integrated data system for astronaut health. And so this would be collecting all the data from the astronaut, including their environment and everything that's going on, synthesizing this data, bringing it back to the decision maker to actually understand the health, to strive and produce not just the survivability, but also the performance and well-being of an astronaut. And then the other mission we could see is the development of capability on this scale, but at the same time for mental health, to also improve the performance and well-being of the astronauts. So these are the three areas that we really see that we can actually provide and provide value into the international area. But we really want to hear your feedback on other missions that you see that we could actually do as work on too. So knowing this, I'm going to step a little bit aside and actually talk about the Trailblazer program and the implementation plan that we've been looking at. Now, if I show you this slide here, I'll explain a little bit about where we've laid down to. So we started with the implementation. We looked at about 7 implementation methodologies that various agencies actually look at. And very quickly it narrowed down to about 2. And the first one is, and the most important part about any of these implementation methodologies, is to find a consortium that can actually achieve the task. So yes, time and money are important, but if we have a good consortium, then there is a strong belief that we can get this to work with the time and money we have. If we have a poor consortium that doesn't have a good governance system, then no matter how much time and money we have, then this will be very difficult to achieve. So consortium is key at the very beginning. And so there's 2 real options available for us. We could go out and tap a few individuals on the organisations on the shoulder and say, look, you have the capability to do this, please provide bids forward. This wasn't really the idea. It didn't really hit all the principles, the attributes that we've been talking about. So hence we've landed on this methodology, which was, instead of a closed competitive grant system, we want to open it up to everyone. But this is a major mission, so we really want to see what you can do. So we want to be able to open it up to everyone, give people a year and a half to actually form consortiums, and good consortiums to actually allow to plan. But then we must raise the bar. So we can't just have a normal proposal put in. We're actually looking for you to demonstrate your stuff. And this means that we'd have a demonstration of what you can actually do. And I'll explain a little bit about that down the road. The key aspect here as well, when we release the grant, we will be singling a specific mission. So we won't be opening it up to everyone to have a choice of what mission you want. It will be a specific mission that we're going to choose to go down this road. We also expect normal mission life cycle standards to be implemented, which is the reason why I've done the pre-phase A to phase F here, because this is there. So if you have not, and you do not understand a lot of this sort of mission cycle, please, there are many documents out there on this by the European Space Agency and also NASA that we have linked into the consultation paper. Please read them. I know they are big documents, but please read them. We should be reading them back and front. So once people have applied and actually gone in for the demonstration test, we will then have an assessment, and then we will give the winner the full $50 million grant. So there'll only be one winner out of this. We won't stage it down, it will just be choice. So we're basically giving people a long period of time, really get you to prove what your consortium is able to do. We'll select one winner, and then we'll go from there. And then about 2.5 years, we'll expect to go to the moon. So I'll explain a little bit of this full proposal and demonstration test. So in the full proposal, so typically I know that we've been doing it through Grants Hub. We've been able to implement most of it through the Grants Hub portal. We'll be doing the same again, but this will be expecting a full proposal. And that means executive summary, technical proposal, strategic proposal, implementation plan, and management proposal, and also the financial proposal. So this is normally around about 2 to 3 months of work of a team actually getting it done. On top of this, we'll be assessing a demonstration test. And so an example of what this would be, for example, if we were asking to do a lunar rover, we would do a prototype rover on the ground, and we would be assessing the capability of this. If we're doing a lunar orbiter, then we'd be doing a demonstration test of a lab prototype of an orbiter. And for an Astronaut Health system, let's say we're expecting a demonstration test of the health device on a patient. So as you can imagine, there is quite a lot of work to be done in that year and a half, developing a full proposal and actually getting the proposals up and ready, at the same time as developing your prototype demonstration test. So on top of this, when we do the demonstration test, we want this in a grand challenge style. So we're wanting to put everyone in a competition together to sort of show what people can do. So I think this would be actually quite an inspiring event to really show what it is, but it is going to be a lot of work. Now, the other part that I wanted to also earmark quite quickly for you is that getting yourself from fully open to this assessment will be funded on your own steam, and that's the proposal of today. After this, of course, the person who wins gets the full 50 million. Now, a little bit of the timeline. We aim to release the grants at the back end of this year, so basically Q3 2021, and then we would expect people to register to apply. Of course, you can register later after this, but we want people to start registering in this year as well to say, look, I'm interested. And this is so we understand around about how many people would turn up and actually put a demonstration and a proposal forward in 2023, which is when we're going to close the grants. So we give you about a year and a half to form that proposal, form those consortiums, get that demonstration test developed, and then go from there. We would also then do about 4 months to 6 months of assessments, and then the grant will be awarded. And then after that, you have 2 to 3 years to actually develop what we've got from the prototype and actually put this thing on the moon. So this is the ultimate timeline that we have here. And this is pretty much it from our side. So I know there's going to be a range of questions along this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what your questions are in Slido. But I'll leave it at this, and if you have any questions, please put it forward. The only part I will say from here, though, this is still in design. The program is not finalised, and this is obviously an opportunity for you to give your feedback. And we really want to hear your feedback from here. So I won't have all the answers today, and that's because not everything, all the details are fully set. That's good news. It means that you can actually give feedback to us, and so then we can change or adapt the program to the feedback you give. So please let us know. Thank you, Sienna.
Thank you very much, Campbell. Okay, so we'll be moving into the Q&A portion of this information session now. The Slido code is back on the screen, so please go to slido.com and enter the event code Trailblazer. In there, you'll see that some people have already started asking questions, but you can add your own and you can upvote the others that you think are the most important for us to answer. We will be answering questions for approximately half an hour. And just a reminder that this is being recorded and will be put on YouTube. Okay, so our first question we have is, what support from NASA do we have for integrating our solution into their architecture?
So, as we said, the aim of the program is to really be, to build relationships with NASA, and we're wanting obviously the industry to start this, but at the same time we have also ourselves started discussions with NASA around specific topics. So we have no information directly on what these collaborations are to date, but when we do have, let's say, signed documents of what this would be, then you guys will be one of the first to know. So I don't have further information on this today.
Thanks very much. The next question is around the investment into Australian companies for the Moon to Mars initiative. So could you define what you mean around Australian made and Australian owned within the scope of the Moon to Mars initiative?
So this question comes up quite a bit. and I was always thinking, what's the best way to answer this? So a lot of the time, I find a lot of people are trying to ask this question to understand where the line is, so they can sort of just get over the line. This, I believe, is a little bit of the wrong way of thinking about it. For me, definitely, we are really wanting to build capability in Australia. There's no question here. And we really want this money to primarily to be developing this capability for Australia. Of course, we understand programs need to mitigate risk, and then hence bringing things overseas make a lot of sense. But we would not want to see the majority of the money going overseas. We want this to stay in Australia. So instead of saying, look, where is the line? What percentage of cash are we talking about? For me, the best way to achieve this is to actually say, look, let's start with the program all in Australia. Let's just do the whole thing in Australia. And then once we start nutting through the program, and I mean, when I say we, I mean the industry, once we start nutting through the parts, then say, look, the risk for this is this component is specifically too high. We should outsource that because someone has developed it, it works, we don't need to take that much risk on. But definitely we want to see the designing in Australia. We want to see the building and manufacturing, a lot of it in Australia. We want to see the integrating and testing in Australia. So definitely some of the key components of the system engineering and the building and manufacturing we would love to see here in Australia. When the typical question that comes up after this is launch, so I'll save people the hassle of asking that one. For a lunar mission within the time frame and the cost that we have to develop a full launcher to get to the moon within this time frame will be an exceptionally difficult task. So it would be considered acceptable to go overseas for a launcher and lander because people have already spent nearly trillions of dollars investing, creating this technology. We have 50 million, so in this time frame it will be very difficult. But for the parts that will be on the launcher, it would make we would expect the majority of this to stay in Australia. But I won't give you a line, and we'll have to specify the exact details in the guidelines. But as I said, think first, how can we do the whole thing here? And then when it gets a little bit too much risk, when the risk becomes way too high, then of course we can look overseas. But really keep a lot of it in Australia.
Great. So the next question is, what analysis has the agency done to determine if the visions and missions are achievable in the timeframe and budget?
So let's start with the missions. The visions first, I think, is probably reasonable. So the visions for us are, as I articulated in the presentation, we really have been doing a lot of work. We've got a full team here going through the strategy for the agency, and this will be implemented. Not implemented, this will be happening for the next year as well, while the roadmaps are going on. So there is a significant amount of effort from the agency in developing the strategy, and we've sort of just put an exploration focus upon it. So for me, I'm very confident in the visions that we set forward that do hit those two indicators that we're looking for. One of them was the leveraging key strengths and fulfilling an international gap in the exploration market. Of course, with any vision, it is a development between what people setting the vision and also the industry and the institutions that are actually going to provide information to it. So this would be, for me, a dialogue that keeps coming back and forward. So under this vision, what can we do? And of course, as more go on, as PhDs happen, as theses occur, as companies start aligning, investments start going forward, we will start seeing more, we'll start getting more feedback and more aspects on these visions to sort of strengthen them, to actually provide all the evidence for over 10 to 20 years. For the missions itself, we've done a significant level of due diligence on majority of the missions to understand that they're in the time frame. For space missions, especially lunar, it gets quite, some of the things get quite simple purely due to the cost of flight itself. As we know, it's around about $1.2 million American just to even get to the moon. And that sort of limits a lot of the size and capability quite quickly. But actually one of the major factors that limited a lot of the missions quite quickly was actually it needs to be in line with our strategy. And that was one of the areas that really sort of focused where and what we could do. And actually be creating a competitive advantage. So we don't want to do things that everyone else is doing. We really don't want to be sitting there and providing the same solution and having a one-off mission. We want to be doing something that we can actually have a competitive advantage in the near future and carve out and stake a claim for Australia in the long term.
Great, thank you. So the next question you answered a little bit before, but there's kind of a little bit, it's a bit different this time. Does the $50 million include having to pay for the launch costs, or will the agency assist with launch options?
Presently, the money that is being earmarked is for launch as well. So that it would be contained in this area, but we are wanting your feedback on this matter. So if you're wanting the agency to assist with it, we would like to hear your feedback on that as well. But the money is not going to expand if that's what you're asking.
Great. Will there be matched funding requirements for this mission?
So with co-funding requirements, as I said, when the guidelines are released, the exact details of what this is, and we haven't sorted this out. I can say though, as the program has looked at today, there has been no limitations relating to co-funding aspects. So this is still open for a discussion. So if you're wanting a certain level of co-funding, then please tell us. If you're not wanting any co-funding, please tell us as well. I will note though that how the implementation methodology that we have to date, you've probably seen that there is a significant level of investment that is needed just to apply. This would be obviously, for me, is a big consideration of a certain level of co-funding in a sense. So please, the main aspect is wait for the guidelines to come out, but this is your time to give feedback. If you do not want co-funding, then you need to state it now. If you do, or a certain level, or the maximum level that you think would be acceptable, I would ask you to write this in the feedback to us.
Great, thank you. Will the unsuccessful applicants get any compensation for the efforts and expenses in phase A, B, or C?
No, I think it's a short one. No, the winner takes all of this situation. But once again, we're in consultation, so this is just a proposal that we're putting forward. We'd like to hear what you would think on this side. But the primary reason why, we've been looking at different models around the world, what have worked, and we see that this is quite a significant level of cash. It's not a small amount, and it has before driven a significant level of investment of this sort of style of cash before, and people taking risks. Now, I will say this though, if you're thinking this is just an application for what Australia Space Agency wants to do, I would take a little bit of a different approach to this. If you look at the majority, and let's say, for example, we can look at the Google Lunar X Prize, they put significantly less money down, and they've created out of this already about 4 or 5 companies because they've earmarked a market that might potentially occur in that future. So if you're considering this is just this one opportunity and that's it, I think you need to change the mindset of which way we're looking at this, and definitely start looking for side markets that would be, in the future be wanting this capability. And definitely people who are, I think, moving along those lines will be considered favourably in the next steps.
Thank you very much. Okay, so do you think that 2 years is sufficient for the design, build, test and launch of a $50 million project?
So if individuals put a proposal in, wait a 1.5 years, and then do a small demonstration test and then wait for it, it is going to be very tough to achieve that in the time frame. If people start before and actually start moving into developing the plans and the proposals inside that 1 year and 1.5 years that we have, then I do believe it is achievable. On that note, every program, on that note, the cost and the time is tough. There is no question there. It is noted clearly that this is quite difficult program to, well, I wouldn't say difficult, but I'd say it is going to be very challenging for a lot of people to make it. But I do believe there are people out there in Australia who can make this.
Great. Okay, the next question is, $50 million is significant and larger consortiums could increase integration risk. What oversight is the agency planning from a program management and support for risk reduction?
So, as I said, the program is still in design, so there are many options still available to us. The present planning is that we would take significantly more oversight over what's going on, because it is important for this program to work. And so we see the typical program management standards that would be applied, typical review processes that would be needed to be put on top, with expert reviews to come in and check a lot of the work that's been going on here, and generally provide the support that is needed to get this program off the ground. We obviously won't be running the program, that's the program manager's role, but we do see that we are going to be more involved in this program and providing the support that is needed for it to work. But as I said, the program is still in design. If you have specific needs and you would want the agency to do something specifically in this program, then please let us know in the consultation. But what I'm typically used to in programs is something similar to what they do in Europe per se, and the agencies are relatively quite involved. So, but the details of this will be in the guidelines as well. So we're looking for your feedback on this to educate us for what we put in the guidelines.
Okay, the next question is, how is the agency mitigating playing favourites with industry or institutions through the implementation plan?
That's a good question. So it is a major, I would say a major consideration for us always to keep a level playing field. So that's one of the reasons why we sort of wanted to open this to everyone. So before, and how a program was typically viewed when it was originally started, was to have a closed competitive program, which means that we sort of identify individuals or organisations, and then they put the bids forward. This time we've opened it up to everyone. So, and that as a plan today. So that's the proposed way forward. But as I said, we've raised the bar. So instead of us choosing who would be the winners, this would be you guys are ultimately choosing you as the winner by showing us what you're able to do. So for me, this is, I would say, one of the fairest ways that we can reduce it, but to produce this approach. But at the same time, once again, we are in consultation. So please, if you see another methodology that you would say that would be even more open to this, then please let us know.
Great. Next question is, can universities lead a proposal?
Once again, where the guidelines have not been set, so there will be discussions that will be from here, and then we'll have a look at who will be the best applicants for this. As you've seen with the demonstrator program, universities were able to apply. I don't see why that would change. We did also put in the consultation paper that everyone would be able to apply. There is one exception to that, and that would be government agencies. But once again, we're still in consultation, so we want to hear your feedback on this.
Excellent. Are we expecting primes to be part of a consortium?
So this is actually more an assessment from your side, from the industry side. And the reason I say this is because one of the key things that we've been trying to push people is to assess the consortium that you form to show that it can achieve the task that it's asked to achieve. And so typically through most program management, you actually look at what capabilities you need. And normally those capabilities are formed by a consortium. One of the key critical capabilities you are going to need is space experience, and ideally space exploration experience. So which organisation who has this, it is, I'd say, to form a consortium that obviously understands what needs to occur, it is important to have this capability. Who that is, that's going to be up to you guys, but it needs to be clearly identified that a bid without any experience in any space experience is going to be quite difficult to demonstrate why they should be the winning factor. But once again, the consultation, it's a consultation, so in the guidelines, you have to use the guidelines as the assessment criteria on how you'll be assessed. But definitely space and space exploration experience is a design attribute that would be needed for a consortium. Don't forget also, when you have any program, program management, system engineering experience is also vital from this, and also experience in the specific technology that you're going to be looking for too. You've probably noticed also, and you'll see in different programs that are coming up, that organisations who haven't addressed this sort of capability, who've sort of gone alone and sort of lone wolf style, have much less chance of achieving success. So really, when we release the grants, really assess what is going to be needed and start partnering to achieve it. It's the fastest way to gain capability. Hence the reason why we've said regularly, please partner, please form those relationships, please do this.
Thanks. The next question is, will the Trailblazer, I imagine what they're asking is the winning bid, be solely selected on NASA application or ability to form part of a future commercial lunar ecosystem?
I don't completely understand what it means by NASA application. Look, how we're going to assess it is going to be based off the assessment criteria that we put in the guidelines that haven't been formed yet, and they should come out later this year. So I would ask, please read the details when they are released, and some of the details haven't been set yet either. So please wait until those guidelines are out. I think this question is relating to a little bit about partnering with international space organisations. It has been brought to our attention by a few agencies that these agencies do not want to influence how money is moved, who receives the grant. So they don't want to be seen as picking winners of other countries' programs. So we have, and you can see on the frequently asked questions for the supply chain, a lot of the support letters from NASA can't actually be considered as in the assessment. So we do, as I said, once again, one of the key objectives is to start forming partnerships, forming relationships with them, but having, let's say, support from certain bodies, specifically NASA here, will not change your influence on the program per se. But of course, we want you to start developing those relationships as well.
Okay. Can a company join more than one consortium?
That's a good question, actually. We actually haven't discussed this one heavily from this side. I hesitate to give an answer here, so I'd probably just wait for the till the guidelines are given out. Wait till the guidelines get out, and I'll put that question on notice. I haven't actually thought through if that would be possible. I don't see why not, but it is. But please give us your feedback. If you want this to be able to occur, then please just write it down to us, and we'll consider it for the guidelines.
Okay. Is it expected that the manufacturing required for the mission is conducted and completed on Australian soil?
Once again, the program is still in design, so please wait until the guidelines come out on exactly what is written there around it. But once again, please give us your feedback from what you want here. Now, the big question is, do you want everything to be built here? Do you not, or do you want the program? It's a balance between everything is what the key part is. So it is a lot more on how much do we demand for it to be in Australia. We are pushing heavily, or expecting heavily, majority of it to be here, specifically of the payload that will be sent to or around the moon. Because we do have a considerable amount of cash and we can develop some capability with this, but we do understand programs have risks and we don't need to take significant unnecessary risks when there is an easy solution overseas. So what I'd say, once again, please wait to the guidelines, but we are expecting the majority of this to be done here in Australia. But specifically skills like system engineering, designing, building, integrating and testing, we want this to be in Australia.
Okay. So the next question is about whether the model is sustainable for the sector. So given the grant conditions and model, are you expecting Australian industry to lose money on this mission?
So I have, look, there has been a lot of consultations that has been going back and forth, and we did hear last time that procurements from the consultation, there is a desire for procurements there, and there has been earmarked by the head of the Australian Space Agency that they are hearing this also as well. So what I'd say is that this program today is a grant program, and it will most likely stay as one, but once again, this is a consultation, so if you prefer it in a sort of different state, then you please let us know. But that doesn't mean we're not open to other programs that are going to be in a procurement form. So once again, we can use the feedback from here to say, look, you know, what the industry is really looking for procurement programs, and especially in exploration missions, there is some benefits to that, of course, but we would need your feedback from this. So please put it in the feedback that you have that this is what you desire, and then we can utilise it since. Is there any questions on the visions, I might say, that we can enjoy understanding the broader scope of the visions they might have?
Well, I'll ask you the next question that's come up first while we see if there are questions on the visions. Please, if anyone has questions on the visions, we do have the subject matter experts also online to answer questions. So far, Campbell's answered all the questions, and I'm sure that they are very excited to answer you. But I'll ask you the next one that's come up while we wait. So for the unsuccessful consortia, will the agency help or lobby support from NASA, ESA or other if it's still a solid proposal?
So I'm presently just working under this program per se. So what the agency does is a little bit outside the scope of the program per se, but we obviously are wanting to support the program that we'd be giving the money to and the individuals there. But as an agency function, there is a general support for the industry per se. So there hasn't been any specific plans for the people who were not going to be the winners. But we also want to hear if there is some ideas or if there's anything that you would want for the people who did not win the grant to occur, then please write in the feedback to us. So if there is certain support that might occur that you'd want for this, then it would be ideal. So the key function for us is to build a specific capability that Australia will be able to leverage. Of course, though, having some redundancy would make a lot of sense, and not just putting all our eggs in one company. Now, we are going to be giving the grant to one company, one group, but there are ways to develop capability, not just through just one consortium. So we are receptive to different ideas, and we have been discussing how to keep some sort of redundancy in this capability in the industry, but we really want to hear your feedback on what you think would be the best way to achieve this.
Okay, the next question is that you've thrown out a couple of solutions or example missions in some of the visions. How is the agency ensuring that the problems are clearly defined and that we deliver capability first?
So it is foreseen that in the guidelines that we are going to have to be very clear and articulate what we want. And that means a clear definition of what the capability we're looking for, clear requirements, and then of course the industry has to stay compliant to those requirements, and a really clear set of rules that you have to go down. So we have noted that we do have to be very clear here. It's not we can't sort of expect everyone to guess what we're thinking. That's not going to occur, so we do have to be clear. But as I said, if you see any specific information that you think is absolutely vital for us to communicate inside these grant guidelines, then it is the best time to do that is now, to provide that information back to us. So if there's anything such as a clear definition of the statement of work, or a sort of a statement of work style that will be going on, clear requirements, environmental guidelines, that sort of stuff, then we'd like to hear it from you as well.
Okay. The next question is, for Trailblazer, can we ensure that we align to ESA with regards to adding people with disability as astronauts for inspiration and employment?
Can you just repeat that question again? I did just cut out just when you said something.
Absolutely. So it's about aligning to ESA's plans for adding people with disability as astronauts for both inspiration and employment purposes. And are we able to align with that?
You mean for the Trailblazer program specifically, or for astronaut programs as well?
Look, the question has said for the Trailblazer program, keeping in mind that an astronaut program has not been put forward as part of the Trailblazer program, but the question is asking specifically about the Trailblazer program.
So I'll take it, obviously, for an astronaut program. I'll leave any comments relating to this. So that's sort of not my area to articulate. That will be more of another forum to go for. Of course, the agency itself does encourage diversity and any sort of aspect from here. But we would want to, once again, if there's anything specific that you want to put into the guidelines that would encourage and do it from this, encourage sort of diversity in certain areas, then we would love to hear your feedback on this. So we do have to follow the rules though of the grant guidelines, which do encourage the majority of these areas. So I don't know if I answered that properly. I will get back to you. I think we're going to give some written formal FAQs to a lot of these questions that you have here.
Sure. We are actually just going to jump across to Gordon quickly on that one. Gordon Cable.
Thanks, yeah, I might take that question. Look, as Campbell said, this isn't about an astronaut program, and whether or not Australia has a sovereign astronaut program in the future, I guess, remains to be seen. But we're about supporting Astronaut Health, and if the astronauts that do go to the moon with the Moon to Mars program, go on to Mars, are astronauts with, not so much disabilities, but abilities which are probably advantageous to microgravity, then certainly as part of our health support system, we have capabilities here that could provide health support to those astronauts, as well as the sort of more able-bodied earthbound astronauts. So I think we can contribute to that healthcare system. So in that sense, yes, we would be aligned with that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So the next question is, can the response just focus on one area, for example, astronaut health systems, or does it have to cover all of the 3 exploration priority areas?
So we will articulate a specific mission in the guidelines, and that's the plan to date. And that is, there's a few reasons why we'd be doing that. It's because it's a typical thing that an agency does do. So most agencies around the world do specify specific missions that we want. And especially in exploration, it helps us to negotiate at an international level, which is a great attribute, but at the same time, it also helps set that vision that we need. So, so we will be specifying exactly what we want for this, but at the same time, we're looking for feedback from you to see which area that you are more interested in. So we wanted to collect your feedback on this itself. So we haven't decided what it is yet. We're waiting for feedback from you guys. And then the decision will be made in the future relating to the feedback you have, but also relating to many other factors, including feasibility, including what's going to grow the industry, really relating around those attributes that I stated before. So you won't have to put a proposal in that identifies all three of them, no. But we will be quite clear what exactly we want.
The next question is, what happens to Trailblazer after the rocket launches? What support exists to sustain ongoing activities beyond 2025?
Are we talking about Trailblazer or rocket launches? I just didn't understand that part. Was it for...
So I imagine that it's about what happens to Trailblazer and other sort of ancillary activities after 2025.
Just about the program itself. So right now the program is earmarked to finish in 2025 and 2026. What happens after that? Not 100% sure exactly what will happen there, but one of the key aspects of the program itself was to set up us for future collaborations as well. So it is an objective of the program to set up capability that we can collaborate in the future with future international space agencies, and also develop new areas of development growth and jobs and growth in this sort of area. So we really are trying to, and you can see by setting visions, so we had a choice to just sort of do a mission, single mission, make this happen, and we saw that wasn't going to be lasting long enough. We realised it wasn't really going to create a long-term solution to the problem we have here. So this is the reason why we've come back and set visions, to say, look, this is the visions that we want to explore for all exploration in Australia. And these are some of the missions that we're looking to. So, of course, when we choose one mission, and we want to make sure that's going to work, but at the same time, just like any other agency, we will keep on exploring other options to extend or make new missions in line with that vision. So it gives us, from my side, it gives us the tools to be able to see what is possible for the next steps, and then we can actually plan forward how we would move into the future over the next 10 to 20 years. So we're not here just to sort of have one mission and then it be done. We are setting up here for broader long-term visions and long-term missions. We are setting the building blocks for this, but right now we have the Trailblazer program, and that is helping set that up. What's happening after the Trailblazer program, we'll have to see.
Okay, so we're going to take one more question because people are having to leave now. So the last question that we're going to ask is, what would the agency see as an optimal consortium composition to deliver on the Trailblazer mission?
Ideally, so once again, please tell us what you think it is, but if I was in your shoes, and when the guidelines come out and with all the requirements and what the capability that needs to be developed and all of this, I would look at what capability that I would need to achieve that mission. And then I would identify individuals out there, and I say individuals, I mean organisations out there that actually have that capability to fulfil the mission. In essence, that's fundamentally what you're trying to do with the consortium anyway. So what you do is really up to you, but any sort of, and you can already pick it now, some of the stuff now, but any lunar mission, you're going to need program management experience, you're going to need system engineering experience, you're going to need, design, building, testing experience, you're going to need international, the lunar mission experience, exploration experience. There's a whole range of suite of things that you're going to need already, and we haven't even specified what the mission is, but it's quite clear that you're going to need that. Now, if we go to health services, let's say we choose a health services mission. Yes, of course, there are medical devices that you need specialists on this sort of area, but the broader sense, you're still going to need program management, you're still going to need system engineering, you're still going to need design, testing, integrating, building, manufacturing. You're still going to need all these things, and so partnering and finding these partners now is advisable. So I'd say do the work on your side, look at what capability you would need for a range of different missions that you have, that look like they're coming out here, and see where the key capabilities trying to start forming these relationships, at least talking to these people and starting to understand what capabilities they have. Now, I will say this is a public consultation, so you can submit what your capability is. So if you want, you don't know where to start, submit here, make it public. So you say there's a choice at the bottom to say, look, I want to make this public. And you can just say, look, our capability is this, we want to be a part of this, but we don't know where to start. And then it will be public, so people can come back here and actually look for you if you don't know where to start. So it is one choice, but at the same time, I'd also go reach out to other groups that would fulfill that capability and then let them know that you're interested to start partaking.
Wonderful. Okay, so that draws us to the end of our Q&A session. Thank you all very much for joining us today. The consultation will stay open until the 2nd of May 2021. That is when it closes. And you can find the consultation at consult.industry.gov.au and search for Moon to Mars Trailblazer program. Campbell, I'm going to throw to you if you have any last things you would like to say.
Just what's on the slides here. Put a submission in. This is your chance to actually give us feedback to the to the program. Please do it. As long as it's articulate, it's fine. It can be dot pointed. Just put it in. It makes life a lot easier for us. And we read every single one, so it's not like we do read them all. Start teaming, start those organisations, and start getting prepared. It's going to be fun, and we're going to the moon.
Excellent. Thank you all very much for joining us today. As a reminder, this will be put on YouTube, on the Australian Space Agency YouTube channel, and we look forward to receiving your consultation submissions. Thank you very much.